Appreciate you clicking on this video, DC fans. We've got to talk about this Superman villain situation. So by now you should be fully aware, James Gunn is currently filming a brand new Superman movie. They're deep into production. They're still going to be in it for a few more months. And although I have all the faith in the world that James Gunn is probably going to deliver an amazing movie, I'd be lying to you if I didn't say every time I heard a new detail and rumor about this movie, it made me a little concerned. It made me go back like, keep an open mind, Chris. Keep an open mind. It's probably going to be peak. And that is no different here with learning who the villain and side villain will be for this movie. So that's exactly what I'll be doing here for you guys. Is I'll be going into the recent reports and rumors about who the villains are in the new Superman film. I still want to call it Superman Legacy. Like, James Gunn, how do you just change a title halfway? I was saying Superman Legacy 1,000 times already. But whether I think this is a good idea, a bad idea, how the fan base is reacting to it, as well as if you think this is the right way to go for the first villain in a new Superman series. Alright, so yes, diving into it here, this has been coming up online the past few weeks. There have been scoopers and people who know information about these productions slowly hinting on who the villain is in the new Superman movie. A lot of the hints came in the form of letting us know that David Cornswet, who's playing Superman and has been making all his public appearances in a long sleeve and a baseball cap. What you hiding under that cap, Cornswet? New Superman gonna have an afro? I'd see that. But people were saying David Cornswet is going to have a tough job in this movie because he's playing two roles in the film. And that already got fans wondering and speculating, going crazy. Okay, do they mean two roles as in Superman and Clark Kent? Because, you know, that is technically two roles, two different identities. But then other people chimed in and was like, oh, they're going to do Bizarro for the villain in Superman. You know what? Let's do that. That'd be kind of cool. And that would let David Cornswet play two different characters, right? He would be his Clark Kent Superman, and then he would be Bizarro from a mirrored dimension. But neither of those really turned out to be the case. Instead, we're getting reports from reliable scoopers online saying that Ultraman is going to be a villain in the new Superman movie, and he will be a clone made by Lex Luthor. And that was just being spread around everywhere, and me having only a surface level knowledge of Superman and his rogues gallery, I was like, Ultraman? I know Bizarro. Who's Ultraman? And Ultraman is usually a character that is like Superman, an evil version of him, but from the multiverse, and is usually working with a group known as the Crime Syndicate. And when you hear those kind of details and already have the multiverse, you're like, whoa, the multiverse is going to be part of that first movie? James Gunn, I knew you were going to be ambitious, but man, let's slow down a bit. I think a lot of us are already sick with multiverse stuff in our comic book movies. But then other scoopers chimed in and tried clarifying and saying that although Ultraman is usually known to be a multiverse Superman character, this movie will not include the multiverse, and instead his origin will play out as a clone of Superman created by Lex Luthor. And even people went back to the first time James Gunn talked about Nicholas Hoult being Lex Luthor in the new Superman movie, and the specific emojis that James Gunn chose to represent Lex Luthor. You could see some DNA, some science stuff going on, things that could actually represent cloning, and you're like, oh my god, that's what they're doing here. And James Gunn did eventually respond to this, and we'll get to his response, but just looking at this for right now, my immediate reaction was, why not just do Bizarro? If you're gonna do a clone or just a Superman-like character, go with Bizarro. He's like probably the most classic option. I know he was recently done in the CW version, and I actually kind of liked that version. But a high-budget movie adaptation of Bizarro, I mean, that hasn't been done in the movies just yet. Why go out of your way to do Ultraman? And then the answer became very clear with what James Gunn is trying to do with this movie. We've seen from all the hinting that James Gunn has been doing online that he really wants to make this Superman movie about bringing back that classic good Boy Scout Superman to the world. It's gonna be a reverse Kingdom Come story where there's a world full of superheroes and they all have their way about taking care of a disaster, whether that means brute force, putting someone in jail, maybe even killing them. Superman is going to be that hero that rises above all that and shows that there is a way you can take people down with kindness, and is ultimately one of the things that makes Superman Superman, right? Pair that up in recent years with just the amount of crazy evil Supermans we've had pop up, from Homelander, Omni-Man, evil Superman in the Injustice video games. Some would even say Henry Cavill's Zack Snyder Superman was leaning towards the evil Superman trope, and evil Superman has become way more common than just regular Superman. Whether maybe because that's just more of an interesting thing, or it's just more exciting when an evil guy has that much power. If this is the route they're going with, then it makes sense why Bizarro was not the best option for this, because yeah, although Bizarro is an evil Superman, he does not carry the same characteristics as someone like a Homelander, Omni-Man, that has that intelligence, that has that evil mindset like those characters. Bizarro is usually, kind of a dumb brute force. And so that actually did kind of excite me, because I've been wanting that trope to go away, because I do think it's lame, and I think Superman should be a character that people respect and love and not look at as boring just because he chooses not to always fight first. It's one of the things that I think makes Superman exciting as a character. But alright, I mentioned James Gunn saw these rumors, and like James Gunn loves to do, he responds to a lot of this stuff. He set a precedent for it. Anytime there's a rumor, there's a report, or anybody just has a random question to ask James Gunn, he's going to be online and he'll respond to you. And with this being spread around like wildfire, James Gunn did respond, and some people are taking this to think that he's debunking the rumor, but I feel, if anything, his word choice made it so that it's almost confirming it. So he said exactly, the primary protagonist of Superman is shockingly Superman. The main villain of Superman is shockingly Lex Luthor. I don't know where all this stuff is coming from, that it's something other than this. There are so many stories coming out every day, it's difficult to deal with, and every time I strike something down, I'm giving it attention. So I'll say again, don't believe anything unless you see it here. And why would you want to know everything before the movie comes out anyways? And you know what? He does have a very valid point about why would you want to know everything before the movie's released. That's one of the things that does suck about the Scooper game and these people who just know the information and put it out there. And I know it doesn't help when I make videos and talk about it here, but I always felt like part of some of this stuff is always the exciting thing, because I think the things we're talking about here will be stuff that'll be present in the trailer. It'll be stuff that is part of the marketing, and that is also stuff that is exciting as a fan to speculate and wonder and build this excitement for a movie. What's the point of being excited for a movie if we're also forced to zip our lips and not talk about it until it's released? Like, come on now, let's build some hype and anticipation. And reminder, that's hype and anticipation, not expectations, because then when you build expectations, you get ruined when they don't come true in the movie. But back to what I was saying, a lot of people were saying, oh, James Gunn is debunking it. He's saying Lex Luthor is the main villain. Yeah, Lex Luthor can still be the main villain, and Ultraman is still in this Superman movie. Think of it in the way Batman vs. Superman. You could say Lex Luthor is the main villain of that movie, but then if I also said Doomsday is the villain, and you came back to me and said, no, Lex Luthor is the main villain, you're not wrong, and I'm not wrong. Seemed like James Gunn chose his words very carefully. If Lex Luthor is the one constructing and making this clone for the Superman movie, and he's going to be something that pops up either at the end of the movie or halfway into the movie, and he's a secondary antagonist, Lex Luthor is still the main villain of this movie, making James Gunn's statement true, and unfortunately, other people will then call him a liar if Ultraman ends up showing up, but he's not lying here. He's just choosing his words carefully. And so honestly, even though James Gunn came out and said this, I still believe Ultraman or this clone Superman will be a part of the movie. It just fits in with the themes and everything he was wanting to portray with this Superman film, is showcase the good side of Superman and then the opposition of that. But also, whether I think that's a good idea, that's a different thing. Because like I said, I still just can't picture the Superman movie just with all the cast of characters in this. I guess I was just hoping for something more traditional, like a Brainiac, a Bizarro, just like a familiar Superman villain name. When you think Ultraman, well, I had to go do some research, but that is the James Gunn way, is it not? If you honestly told me we were getting Brainiac or Ultraman, knowing James Gunn, I was like, yeah, I guess Ultraman makes more sense, because James Gunn loves to dig deep with his characters, and that's a good thing. I've also loved what other people said, and since, movies like to adapt things, there are versions where this Superman-like character eventually deteriorates as he goes on. So in a weird way, we could still get Bizarro come by the end of this movie if this clone isn't perfect and he starts looking really weathered, is dying, is going kind of crazy in the head. They can do the evil Superman trope at the beginning of the movie, and then by the end, it's full-on Bizarro. So yeah, although at first I was extremely hesitant when I heard this, I could see what James Gunn is trying to cook and how that would be an interesting story to tell. Even if Lex Luthor is like the main villain of this movie, Lex Luthor is like a Loki to Superman, right? He's someone that could be a villain here, but you would love to see Lex Luthor be a presence in the other movies. You wouldn't just have him be a one and done. He's someone that carries on against Superman for a long time. And this is how I could see that happening until maybe one version he eventually gets the green mecha suit. I would love to see that version of Lex Luthor and then fight Superman like that. But this is where I throw it off to you guys. How do you feel about James Gunn's response? Do you think it does debunk the evil Superman rumors? Do you like this idea for where the movie could go? Would you have rather they chosen somebody else? Would love to hear it all. Anything, everything. Be sure and like, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at 3C Films or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.